Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered why your face seems puffier, your eyes look more tired, or your belly keeps expanding even though your lifestyle hasn't really changed? Maybe you've been telling yourself it's just part of getting older, but what if it's something deeper? What if your body is actually signaling a hidden imbalance that millions of people in the US and Canada struggle with every single day? Think about it. Do you find yourself constantly exhausted, snapping at small things, or catching colds more often than you used to? If any of these sound familiar, stay with us, follow this channel, and let's explore together. You might discover something life-changing. Today, we're going to talk about 10 visible signs of high cortisol, the stress hormone that can quietly undermine your health. Cortisol isn't inherently bad. It helps you survive stressful moments, but when levels stay elevated for too long, it reshapes your body, drains your energy, and damages your long-term health. From dark circles under your eyes to stubborn belly fat, from hair thinning to slower healing, these signals are written across your face and body if you know how to read them. In this video, we'll break each sign down in detail, explain why it happens, and help you understand how stress may be silently impacting your health. Let's start with one of the earliest and most overlooked signs: dark circles and tired-looking eyes. Many people brush this off as a bad night's sleep, but when it keeps showing up day after day, it's often a red flag for chronically high cortisol. Here's why cortisol is designed to help you stay alert in times of danger. Imagine your ancestors needing to run from a threat. Cortisol would rise to keep them awake, focused, and energized. The problem comes when that stress response never turns off. In modern life across the US and Canada, stress rarely looks like running from danger. Instead, it's work deadlines, bills, caring for family, or even scrolling through late-night news feed. Your brain doesn't know the difference. It keeps producing cortisol as if you were in survival mode. And here's the catch. Cortisol directly opposes melatonin, your sleep hormone. The higher your cortisol, the harder it is for melatonin to work. That means you might go to bed on time, but still wake up feeling drained with dark circles under your eyes and a heavy sunken look to your face. Over time, this imbalance doesn't just affect your appearance. It chips away at your memory, your focus, and your emotional stability. Many people describe themselves as being on edge or always tired but wired. If you've noticed yourself in this pattern, it's not just about cosmetics, it's your body's way of waving a warning flag. The good news is that recognizing these signs early gives you the power to act. By connecting what you see in the mirror to what's happening inside your body, you can start addressing the root cause, not just the surface. And this is only the beginning. Next, we'll uncover how high cortisol shows itself through your skin, sometimes in ways you'd never expect. Now let's move to the second sign: changes in your skin, especially unexpected acne or oily breakouts. Many people think acne is only for teenagers, but when cortisol runs high, it can trigger flare-ups even in your 30 seconds, 40 seconds, or beyond. Here's what happens. Cortisol stimulates your sebaceous glands, the tiny oil factories under your skin. When they become overstimulated, they pump out excess oil, clogging your pores and creating the perfect environment for breakouts. But that's not the whole story. High cortisol also disrupts your gut microbiome, the balance of healthy bacteria in your digestive system. When that balance is off, tiny toxins can leak into your bloodstream, sparking inflammation that shows up on your skin. That's why so many people dealing with stress not only feel tired, but also notice rashes, redness, or acne they can't seem to explain. In North America, this cycle is incredibly common. Long work hours, processed food, and poor sleep habits all raise cortisol, and your skin often becomes the first canvas where stress paints its damage. If you've ever wondered why your skin suddenly feels oilier or more reactive, even though your routine hasn't changed, this could be the missing link. Now, let me ask you directly, have you noticed your skin breaking out more during stressful weeks? Drop a yes in the comments if you've seen this connection in your own life, or share your story below. Your experience might help someone else realize they're not alone. And don't forget, by subscribing and staying tuned, you'll learn not only how to recognize these signs, but also practical steps to calm cortisol and reclaim your health. Up next, we'll explore how cortisol reshapes your face and body in ways far more visible than you might expect. Building on what happens to your skin, the next visible sign of elevated cortisol is how it reshapes your face and neck. People often notice their features looking fuller or rounder, even if their diet and exercise haven't changed. This isn't just a matter of gaining a little weight. Cortisol has a unique way of redistributing fat and fluid in the body. When cortisol levels stay high, they influence another hormone called aldosterone, which regulates fluid and mineral balance. The result is water retention that gives your face a puffier, swollen look. At the same time, cortisol shifts where fat is stored. Instead of spreading evenly, it tends to accumulate in very specific regions: the face, the upper back of the neck, and the abdomen. That's why you might see a rounder face, or even what doctors call a buffalo hump, a small pad of fat just below the neck. This process goes hand in hand with muscle breakdown. Cortisol breaks down protein in your arms and legs to generate extra glucose, leaving your limbs thinner. In contrast, fat deposits on the trunk, face, and neck become more pronounced. The combination exaggerates the imbalance: slim arms and legs, but a fuller midsection and rounder facial features. For many people, this change creeps up gradually. One day you glance at an old photo and realize your face looks different, fuller, heavier, without any obvious explanation. It can be unsettling, but it's a clear signal that your body has been locked in stress mode for too long. From here, the signs only become more apparent. Cortisol doesn't stop at changing appearance, it also alters how you hold yourself. Next, we'll look at how chronic stress leaves its mark on your posture and muscles. After altering the way your face and body store fat, high cortisol also leaves a visible imprint on your posture and muscle tone. This isn't something you usually notice overnight. It builds slowly, but the changes are unmistakable once they set in. When the body senses ongoing stress, it activates the sympathetic nervous system, the classic fight or flight response. In those moments, the body naturally tenses its flexor muscles. Shoulders roll forward, the neck stiffens, the jaw tightens. These reactions are protective in the short term, designed to shield vital areas in case of danger. The trouble begins when stress becomes chronic. Cortisol reinforces these patterns, turning what should be temporary defenses into semi-permanent postural habits. Biochemically, cortisol strips protein from large muscles in the arms, legs, and back. Over time, this weakens the very muscles that are supposed to hold you upright. Meanwhile, the smaller, tighter muscles already strained from repeated stress responses stay locked in tension. The result is a forward-leaning, hunched posture that many people mistake for simply getting older or bad ergonomics. In addition to appearance, this shift affects how the body feels. People often experience lingering back or neck pain, stiffness in the shoulders, and a sense of fatigue even after rest. The skeletal frame has to compensate for weakened support, creating discomfort that radiates throughout daily activities. It's a reminder that stress doesn't just weigh on the mind, it reshapes the body's very framework. And as posture changes, another pattern emerges: fat accumulation around the abdomen, a hallmark sign that cortisol is rewriting your body's priorities. That's where we'll turn next, examining why belly fat tied to stress is far more concerning than ordinary weight gain. As posture begins to change and muscles weaken, another unmistakable sign of high cortisol emerges: the buildup of abdominal fat, particularly visceral fat. Unlike the softer love handles that sit just under the skin, visceral fat forms deeper inside the abdominal cavity, wrapping around vital organs like the liver, pancreas, and intestines. This is why doctors often call it the most dangerous kind of fat. Cortisol directly drives this pattern. When stress is chronic, the body diverts energy into storing fat, where it can be quickly mobilized in an emergency. Unfortunately, the abdomen becomes the primary storage site. Over time, this leads to the characteristic apple-shaped body, a rounder, fuller midsection, even if the rest of the body seems relatively lean. But this isn't just about appearance. Visceral fat is linked to a host of serious conditions: insulin resistance, type 2, diabetes, heart disease, and even cognitive decline. It signals that the body has been stuck in stress mode for too long, prioritizing survival at the expense of healing and repair. Many people in the US and Canada notice this change. Gradually, belts, fitting tighter clothes, feeling snug, and yet the scale might not fully explain it. It's not simply overeating, it's a hormonal fingerprint of cortisol's influence. Now, let me turn the question to you. Have you noticed your belly expanding during periods of stress, even when your diet stayed the same? If so, share your thoughts in the comments below. By telling your story, you may help others realize that what they're experiencing isn't just personal weakness, it's biology at work. Next, we'll explore how this same hormone not only adds fat, but also strips muscle, leaving arms and legs thinner while the midsection grows stronger in contrast. Following the buildup of visceral fat, cortisol creates an even sharper contrast by thinning the arms, legs, and glute muscles. This combination, more fat in the center and less muscle on the limbs, is one of the most recognizable body patterns of chronic stress. The mechanism is straightforward but damaging. Cortisol's primary role is to keep blood sugar available during stress. When the body doesn't have immediate energy from food, it turns inward, breaking down stored protein to convert it into glucose. Large muscles like those in the thighs, arms, and buttocks become the main targets because they hold the richest reserves of protein. Over time, these muscles shrink, leaving the limbs looking slimmer while the abdomen grows heavier. This isn't just a cosmetic change. Muscles are essential for stability, balance, and daily strength. As they weaken, everyday activities, climbing stairs, carrying groceries, or even standing for long periods become more tiring. People often describe themselves as feeling weaker despite not changing their exercise habits. In some cases, chronic muscle breakdown also contributes to frequent cramps, a sense of heaviness in the joints, or slower recovery after physical effort. Visually, this imbalance exaggerates the overall effect of cortisol on the body, a rounder trunk set against thin arms and legs. Many find it unsettling because it doesn't match the typical picture of weight gain they see their body changing in two opposite directions at once. This redistribution of mass is a clear sign that stress is not just a fleeting emotional state, but a long-term physiological force. And as the body continues to adapt under pressure, another outward marker becomes noticeable. The health of the hair itself begins to change, often in surprising and distressing ways. From the shrinking of muscles, the next visible impact of chronic stress appears in an even more personal place, your hair. While muscle loss changes how you move, hair thinning changes how you see yourself every day in the mirror. And for many, this is one of the most emotionally difficult signs of high cortisol. The science is clear. Cortisol interferes with the natural growth cycle of hair follicles. Normally, hair follows a rhythm, growth, rest, and shedding. But when cortisol levels remain high, that rhythm is disrupted. Follicles are pushed prematurely into the shedding phase, and over time, hair becomes noticeably thinner. Unlike male pattern baldness, which usually starts at the temples or crown in a predictable pattern, cortisol-driven hair loss looks different. It's diffuse, spread evenly across the scalp, and often accompanied by brittle texture. People often notice it during routine moments, more strands on the pillow in the morning, clogged shower drains, or a hairbrush that fills up faster than before. For women especially, this can be alarming because the thinning doesn't follow the genetic pattern they might expect. For men, the difference is in the quality. Cortisol-related loss leaves hair finer and weaker, not just receding. This change reflects more than surface-level stress. It's a sign that the body is prioritizing short-term survival over long-term renewal. Hair, after all, is non-essential when the body believes it's under threat. That's why it's one of the first functions sacrificed when resources are stretched thin. And hair isn't the only tissue affected. Cortisol's breakdown of protein and collagen also leaves its mark on the skin itself, making it thinner, more fragile, and prone to visible damage. This brings us to the next sign, easy bruising and the appearance of fragile, parchment-like skin. After hair begins to thin, the same destructive process shows up in the skin. Cortisol breaks down collagen and connective tissue, leaving the skin thinner, less elastic, and more fragile. What this means in everyday life is simple bruises appear more easily, small bumps turn into purple marks, and cuts seem to leave longer-lasting traces. The skin, once resilient, begins to resemble parchment, dry, brittle, and far less able to protect the body from the wear and tear of daily living. This happens because cortisol, in its effort to generate blood sugar, taps into protein reserves wherever it can find them. Muscles are one source, but skin and collagen become targets too. Without the structural strength of collagen, blood vessels lose their cushioning and break more easily, which explains why a light knock against the counter might leave a large bruise. It's not that you're suddenly clumsier, it's that your body no longer has the resources to protect itself in the same way. For many people, this change can feel both cosmetic and unsettling. Skin is one of the most visible reflections of health, and watching it become fragile is a stark reminder of what stress is doing on the inside. Now let me ask you, have you noticed your skin bruising more easily than before or taking longer to bounce back from small injuries? Share your experience in the comments. Sometimes talking about it helps others connect the dots in their own health journey. And the story doesn't stop here. As cortisol continues to reshape the body, another outward marker often appears alongside fragile skin, red or purple stretch marks, especially around the abdomen and thighs. Alongside fragile skin and frequent bruising, another visible marker of prolonged cortisol exposure often develops red or purple stretch marks. Unlike the faint silvery lines that can appear from natural weight changes or pregnancy, cortisol-related stretch marks are darker, more pronounced, and often appear in unusual places. The mechanism behind this is tied to the same protein loss that thins the skin. As cortisol breaks down collagen and elastin, the skin loses its flexibility. When fat accumulates in the abdomen due to cortisol's redistribution effect, the skin is forced to stretch without enough structural support. The result is tearing within the deeper layers of the skin, leaving streaks that look red or purple at first before they eventually fade to a lighter shade. These marks typically show up on the abdomen, thighs, or even the upper arms areas where cortisol-driven fat tends to deposit. They can be alarming not only because of their appearance, but also because they reveal how deeply stress has altered the body's tissues. Unlike ordinary stretch marks, which may soften over time, those tied to high cortisol often remain more visible due to the ongoing lack of collagen repair. For many, this is a moment of realization. The skin doesn't just bruise easily. It also shows scars of internal imbalance. The body is literally wearing stress on the outside, broadcasting what's happening within. And the story continues. As cortisol takes resources away from repair and healing, it doesn't only leave marks, it slows down the body's ability to recover altogether. The final and often most severe sign of chronic high cortisol is slow wound healing, where even minor cuts or scratches linger far longer than they should. Just as stretch marks reveal how stress weakens the skin, the most advanced sign of high cortisol is when wounds begin to heal far more slowly than expected. A small cut from the kitchen, a scrape from the garden, or even a routine bruise can linger for weeks, showing little sign of recovery. This is more than an inconvenience, it's the body signaling that its repair systems have been put on hold. Under normal conditions, the body prioritizes healing by directing blood flow, immune cells, and protein to damaged tissue. But when cortisol dominates, survival mode takes precedence. In that state, long-term processes like tissue repair, immune defense, and reproduction are considered non-essential. Cortisol constricts blood vessels, limits nutrient delivery, and continues to pull protein away from the skin and muscles for glucose production. The result? Tissues lack the building blocks they need to knit back together. For many, this change is deeply frustrating. A scratch that would once disappear in a few days now remains tender and visible. Infections may occur more easily because the immune system is also suppressed. Taken together with the earlier signs, dark circles, thinning hair, fragile skin, and stretch marks slow wound healing confirms that the body has been under siege for far too long. This is the tipping point where cosmetic concerns transform into clear medical warnings. The body isn't just showing stress on the outside, it's struggling to maintain its most basic protective functions. And as these signs accumulate, they paint a vivid picture of how chronic stress through cortisol can gradually erode health from the inside out. Looking back at these 10 signs, it becomes clear how deeply cortisol shapes the body when stress is allowed to run unchecked. It starts quietly with dark circles under the eyes and skin that feels oilier than usual. Soon the changes grow, more visible, rounder features, hunched posture, and stubborn belly fat that refuses to shift. Over time, the imbalance becomes unmistakable. Thinning arms and legs, hair that sheds faster than it grows, and skin that bruises or tears with the lightest impact. Finally, stretch marks and slow healing wounds reveal just how far the body has been pushed beyond its capacity to repair itself. Together, these signs form more than a checklist. They tell a story. A story of a body stuck in survival mode, fighting each day as if danger were around every corner. Cortisol on its own is not the enemy. It is the hormone that kept our ancestors alive in times of crisis. But in a world where stress rarely ends, cortisol turns from a lifesaver into a silent saboteur. What begins as fatigue and cosmetic changes can, if ignored, evolve into deeper health problems: heart disease, diabetes, memory loss, and weakened immunity. The good news is that awareness is the first step. By recognizing these signs in the mirror and listening to what your body is telling you, you gain the power to act before long-term damage takes hold. Managing stress, restoring sleep, and creating balance in daily life can begin to reverse many of these patterns. So when you notice these clues written on your body, don't dismiss them as simply getting older. See them for what they are, messages from within urging you to protect your health and reclaim your resilience.